Hi, Joe. I wanted to give you a quick, review of the work that I've done on the BIM modeling component that creates this rain screen facade system. This is just one example that would be part of our discussion in the paper. It's what I supplied as far as illustrations in the document that we're producing. I want to just tell you, just briefly introduce how this system functions or how this kind of methodology functions in the BIM modeling environment. And this is about teaching facades, not about the actual detailing of facades. There's probably more detail in this facade than actually would need to exist in the construction documents that an architect does. So in this case, this is in the document itself, this is a curtain wall system. I'm not sure exactly how familiar you are with how Revit works, but we populate, so I might explain too much here. We can have curtain walls, obviously, which are populated by panels and divisions, and those divisions can have mullions and other components in them. But we can also populate a curtain wall with something down to the level of a panel. So in this case, I made a 1 foot high panel by a variable width grid, and then populated it with one panel system. Even though it looks like there's a bunch of things going on here, each one of these articulations of the panel are just from variations in what we have visible with them. And I can click in and show you that right away. So the student would actually be able to just import this panel and then populate this Revit family panel and then populate the complete facade. So here's that element in itself. It's quite detailed, more detailed once again than you would use probably for construction documents or architectural work, but for educational purposes, really rich with information. So we have plywood, we have a Z-girt in here, we have a moisture barrier, this little blue line that just shows up a little bit when I highlight over it. We have drywall back here. These two things are actually void extrusions that allow us to miter the corners so that we can have inside and outside corners when we bring panels together. And then you'll notice we have a track system here and even a clip down below that. And then we have three different panels that we can control visibility with. And students here would have the option of actually custom designing these extrusions and finishes to suit their taste. So once those populate a complete system, then we have, let me just cancel out of that. Then this is where the kind of understanding or the value of this complexity helps the student make or gather a better understanding of what's going on here. So you can see now in certain panels here, let me just tab in to show you how one of these panels works. I've tabbed into this one. You'll notice now that we have visibility settings for inside and outside corners, whether the moisture barrier shows, which tile is expressing itself, a flat, a curved, or rib tile. These are all self-named, and these can be changed by the student. We can show the insulation, we can show the parts being the tracks and the grids and that. And so in this case, I've got very little showing in this tile right here where you're actually seeing plywood. The next one down has the moisture barrier on it. The next one up above it has the insulation. And then there are ones that have full tile systems on them. And the important part here is just to show you this depth that's happening in this section cut. And if we actually went to the section, and actually let me go ahead and I'm going to take you into the window element that I developed. Because I've got a component showing that I actually want to get rid of. So you can see this has a little edge on it to catch what am I looking for? The facade wall, the sheathing system. Um, and you can notice the extreme depth from where the glazing system and the sheathing is to where we get to the outside of the rain screen, which is a typical issue that architects always have to address when they're creating these types of rain screen systems. But I wanted to click into the window system just to give you an idea of how this is built up. So once again, we're back here. I'm showing you back here at the edge of the sheathing where the little tab comes out to grab it. I've made an extrusion, just a generic shape or a shape that any student could make modifications to. The glazing doesn't have to exist back there. You could make a window system that pushed that glazing element up closer to the edge of the facade so you wouldn't need these extension jams, so to speak. But it gives them a fundamental idea about what's going on in the construction and just the incredible thickness of these systems and how to detail them to get the appearances that they like. So let's go back to that window again. And once again, like I said, I've created a little extra terracotta trim here, and I'm just going to turn that off so it doesn't show up in the section view. So we'll go over to the section view now, and you can see quickly how a student could understand there's the inside layer, the plywood, the moisture barrier. We're not getting a representation in here of the insulation right now. I'm not sure why. I don't think I've provided anything in that material element. But then we have our window structure, our glazing element. We have the relationship with our track. We can render this obviously in wireframe also, or just hidden line. And now they're ready to start being able to understand how to detail these kind of components in a wall section. So I think that really helps them to understand the relationships of all of these components in kind of a really detailed way that'll help them to be much more talented designers of crafting their buildings, especially with this idea of understanding. I lost my view there. See if I can get that back. I went way off in outer space here. Details that I find are really important are this idea of these lines and continuing them down through the window systems. Many times I see mistakes where architects are actually adding trim onto these, and they really destroy the kind of visual cleanness of the grid lines. So for the student to understand the importance of delineating these kind of elements at this kind of level, really gives them, I think, a real head start when they get into actual practice. So I hope that's useful. Um, like I said, that coupled with, if you reread the initial submittal that I want to use for the paper, the abstract, I'd really love your input on this. Um, I'd like to get a dialogue going. We've got our deadline coming up in a couple of weeks. So I hope this is useful for you. And I hope you're having a good summer.